Gary A. asks, you've mentioned several times that the SDR is likely to replace the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency. Even though SDR is more common among countries, wouldn't the Petro Yuan create demand for the yuan globally, making it the reserve currency and thus become more common than an SDR?
Well, anything could happen, and we certainly can see the Petro Yuan. We can certainly see the relationship between China and Saudi Arabia and France, growing. So no doubt about that. But it can become a problem, as we've seen in the U.S., to have one country and one currency as the world reserve currency, because it requires you, as the lender of last resort and the supporter of the world, to run massive deficits. So I still go back to the SDR, and I still think we're going to end up with a dual currency system, one globally, the SDR, because that is a basket of currencies, and it can encapsulate every single currency on the planet. So it would make it very easy to trade on a global basis, and it would also give the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, a whole lot more prestige and power.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, you got a lot more power in this even more centrally located to central banks.
Exactly.
I mean, that's something that they want.
Exactly.
I mean, why give it to China when you can build it yourself?
Yeah, and I'm not 100%. China definitely wants a lot more control and a lot more power on the global stage. So absolutely zero doubt about that one. But do I think that they really want to carry that whole weight? I'm not exactly sure what the advantage would be to them directly. It was a huge advantage to us because it did create an artificial demand for our currency. But I think we're evolving to a more global currency system. So therefore, the SDR still makes the most logical sense.
All right, so Kat R., how do you see the situation unfold in the UK, and do you think we need to have your ITM mantra in place here as well?
The answer is yes, because the UK is experiencing even more rapid inflation. And hey, you've already had people from the Bank of England come out and say, you guys, you just need to get used to the fact that you're a lot poorer and stop asking for raises. Can you believe that people in power at the Bank of England would actually come out and say that? It's like amazing. So the answer, Kat, is I don't care where you are in the world, you need, at this juncture, because this is a global issue, you need to be as independent and self-sufficient as you can possibly be. And that's what the mantra is all about, is to make sure that you are as independent and self-sufficient. And a big key in there, too, is, yes, you got to have your foundation to protect your purchasing power, because the inflation is showing you that you're losing more and more purchasing power. So that's got to be your foundation. But you also have to come together in community, because one person cannot do the whole thing. Yes, I think my mantra is important everywhere in the world, and definitely in the UK. Yes.
Paul K. asks, I understand that Canada's central bank does not hold any gold.
Yep.
Do you know why? And what does it mean for a country that does not hold gold?
I don't actually know why they decided to divest themselves of the rest of the gold, which I think they did so I could be off on this since I don't have that data right in front of me, but I'm pretty sure it was 2019 is when I want to say they got rid of the rest of their gold.
A lot longer ago than that.
Was it? Maybe. I don't know. Look it up.
I'll do a search and see if I can
do a search. But what it means for a country, Great Britain did the same kind of thing. And then they were very sorry that they did it afterwards, and they took a lot of heat. So what does it mean for a country that does not hold gold? It means that they will not remain autonomous as we go through all of this. Because you can see the countries that are rapidly accumulating gold, which is, when was it?
Well, so what's funny is, they said, so this was reported by Kitco News back in May of 22, but they said Gold is an antique instrument, and that's why Canada sold all of its gold reserves.
Well,
And they said they started selling it off in the
When?
early 2000s.
yes, but when did they finish?
Well, I would think more recently, if they were talking about it in 2022 as a relic, like an antique, but it doesn't say in here. So they started in the early 2000s, but it doesn't say when they finished. But
Yeah, and I could be wrong with 2019, but that's kind of in my recollection. That's when I think they finished selling it off. But at any rate, what it really means, we can look at the countries that are right now rapidly accumulating gold, like China and Russia and India and Kazakhstan, et cetera, et cetera. And we can also see where the fault lines are between countries that are taking sides. And really what it means, if you don't hold gold and the global fiat money system hyperinflates away, whoever does hold the gold, number one, can have the wealth transfer their way, but they're the ones that hold power and choice. And we all see that there is a shifting of power from the West, the U.S., etc., to the East, China, India, Russia, the BRICS nations, etc. So what it means is that they just won't hold any power. That's actually what it means. Whoever doesn't have gold,
right,
is screwed in this transition.
So 2018, they had 77 ounces left. They'd sold off the bulk of it, the last of it in 2018. So you're almost,
So I was close.
Very well, because it could have been the end of 2018. So you're really close. And then what's interesting, and they said, gold costs money to hold, store, protect, all that stuff, and it's easier just to have like U.S. and Eurozone monetary instruments.
Unfortunately,
Holy cow.
what governments, but what people will also do in the name of convenience ends up not being very convenient.
Yeah, time will show, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
Robert D asks, when the reset happens and the digital dollar takes over, how do we know that the government won't just set the price of gold at 2,000 and silver at 25, much like they set the price when they called all the gold back in 1933?
Well, first of all, they're going to use it, and at that overnight reset, I mean, that's what history tells us. Could they fix the price of gold? Well, if they're going to do an overt confiscation, because all of this price manipulation is a covert confiscation anyway, as is inflation. They don't want to call it confiscation because they don't want you to understand that. But understand that were they to do an overt confiscation, it doesn't say it, does it?
Nope, it must be on a different document.
It must be. I have to pull my laptop and find it because it was right there and I went, holy crap, okay. And I printed it out, but I didn't read it after I printed it out. Sorry about that. But when they are ready to do the confiscation, then they will. They'll take wherever the spot is. And when you're talking about setting the price, you can do that so easily with contracts because there's no limitation really to how many gold or silver contracts that you create. But they would say, okay, if spot is trading at 2,000, they're not going to want you to complain about it, and they're going to want easy cooperation. So they'll say, and we'll pay you a premium, maybe 3,000 or 4,000 or something like that. And with most people not understanding that is so far below the fundamental value, they'll go, well, wow, look at this. It's only worth 2,000, and they're willing to pay me 3. Okay, you can take my IRA, go. That's why I don't hold gold in an IRA, because I can't do the kind of gold that I like. So, yeah, they will ultimately set the price if they're going to do an overt confiscation. But they have been doing a covert confiscation since the day you were born, whoever you is, each one of us.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's one way they could do it, right? They could definitely increase the spot price, but I think if they're they could just give you exactly what, they could do what they did in 33 and just say, okay, gold's $2,000 an ounce today, we're going to give you $2,000 an ounce. Silver's at 25, we're going to give you 25. And, if you're caught with gold or silver, or we catch you with it and you haven't turned it in, then the price the penalty you pay is, I mean, back in 33, I think the penalty was close to 200,000. It was 10,000, but I think in today's dollars it's close to 200 grand. Or 10 years in jail, or both. So they could just make it. They're going to tell you definitely it's a patriotic thing to do. The system's going down. We need everybody to help us strengthen the dollar. It's the patriotic thing to do. You gotta help out. Turn your gold in. They're not going to say it's a confiscation. They're just going to say, hey, give us your gold. We'll pay you the going rate for it. And then we'll back the currency with gold. It's going to solve all of our problems. But now that since the introduction of what all this stuff is going on with the CBDCs, I know we talk about this all the time now because we get a lot of questions on it, but I think CBDCs is the reason why I think they're going to ban. I think personally, this is just my opinion, but I think they're going to ban all the exits. They're going to bar all the exit doors to the CBDC. Not initially. They're going to introduce the CBDC. They're going to get adoption. They're going to take away cash. They're going to take away cryptos. They're going to take away gold, gold and silver bullion. They're going to take away all these different avenues where you can escape from the CBDC, right, into other currencies. That now I don't think they're going to take away, art, collectible cars, collectible gold, collectible silver, like all these different collectible things. I think
because
those
the
will
people that own those.
Right. And eminent domain laws makes it a lot more difficult to get into that kind of stuff. But I think they ban all the other exit routes. So.
But not initially, because they don't want you to understand that they're putting you in a corral. How do you catch a wild boar? You just put up one side at a time, let everybody get used to it, and then before you know it, you've got all four sides closed and there's no escape. But it hasn't been as easy to get adoption as they thought it was going to be.
I hope they don't get any adoption.
Exactly.
I hope everybody wakes up to the fact that CBDCs are sinister and no one we can avoid it.
That would be ideal. And even when they do come out with it, because they're going to push us into it, there's going to be some huge crisis, and they're going to put all that money, the CBDCs, inside of the FedNow accounts, which everybody has a FedNow account, and say, you don't have to worry. Look here's all of this money in there, and they're going to attempt to get adoption.
All right, so 47 Retta asks, I still do not understand what the LIBOR change to SOFR is going to mean for me.
It means a number of things, but for you specifically, meaning just the normal person on the street, when you open up your mortgage statement, what could very well happen, you've seen now that we've got regional banks that are going under, though the issue with them is the same as the issue for all the big banks too, because as the central bank, as the Fed has raised interest rates, the value of all of those contracts go down. And so what they're going to end up doing, most likely, because it's never been done before, is all of those assets will have to be repriced. So you think you owe $100,000 on your mortgage, but if you open up your mortgage statement, you might end up owing, $150,000 or $125,000 or something like that. So it very well could overnight change the value of what you owe. Because are they going to let the banks, eat it? No. And they've already put in safe harbor. So we as a group, meaning the public, cannot come together and do a class action suit because the value of our credit card statement or the value of our mortgage or the value of anything else has changed overnight. And that is really how you, the normal person, are likely to see this unfold. Because the valuation of every contract that gets transitioned from LIBOR to SOFR changes, period. And it does, which is one reason why I think all of this is being hidden under the guise of, inflation, raising rates, because it's skewing the value of all of those contracts, every single one, whether it's in a regional bank or a big bank or a corporate, another kind of corporation. The value of all of those contracts has changed.
This is why you get gold and silver, so you can just not think about this crap anymore.
Yep.
It's depressing. It's freaking depressing.
It is.
It really is. Like you said about, the safe harbor thing, and it's just like,
well, that's what
we're not allowed to hold anybody accountable we're not allowed to hold the government, the banks accountable for anything that they're doing.
Right.
Right? We just have to eat it.
Yeah.
Just like the same thing with, well, probably shouldn't even say anything about the whole COVID thing and not being able to hold people accountable, but
No,
it's
that's
just
okay.
more.
That's
It's
over now.
more of the same though. It's just
Of
the
course
same
it is.
bull crap. It's just frustrating and irritating.
Because the general public, they do not really pay attention. They're busy living their lives. And quite honestly, if you read back to the beginning stages of this whole fiat system, that is what they said. If people have to work more and harder to maintain their standard of living, they don't have as much time to pay attention to what we're doing. It's freaking evil. It's evil. So that's it. And Eric, I agree with you 100%. That's why you have physical gold, physical silver that is completely outside of the system. Because part of the strategy, let's go back to the mortgage for a second, but part of the strategy right now, you have gold that's severely undervalued and you still have those mortgages because the dollar is overvalued, right? And that's up here, but that's going to flip-flop. So if you have gold to offset the change in the value of those contracts, you are going to have the ability to pay those contracts off. Boom. If you don't, that's when you're really screwed.